got a lot to talk about here in this episode of the Nissan Nerd Podcast. Primarily, we always start off the episode, of course, with news. And Mike, you've got a lot to kind of talk about in this. But for those that don't know, again, Nissan News is where we each scour the internet and share an article we like regarding Nissan, Datsun, or Infiniti. Articles are usually sourced through the Nissan official newsroom and from media outlets at large. So take that with a grain of salt. Be kind. But you've got the first one up, Mike. And let's talk about it. What do you got?
Let's go for it, man. The article that I found here in the last week or two, um, I gotta say, it's not only a feature on a car, but the story behind the car, and happened over 30 years ago. Which every time I hear this story on some sort of article, I always have to share it because I like it so much. So coincidentally, just another one, a new story has just popped up, and I'll go ahead and share my screen on this. And what we have here is a record-breaking Nissan R90CK is going to auction. For those who see it in the picture here, this is the 1990 Nissan, again, R90CK. This was the car that was qualifying and raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, again, over 30 years ago. What makes it special is its story. What specifically during qualifying before the actual 24-hour race. You'll see it through multiple outlets, and of course, we'll include a few with our show notes. But the summary of it is during qualifying, this particular car had its turbo wastegate become stuck or jammed.
We've talked about this before, and
Oh man, I love it.
it's a great story. Sorry, my
Yeah.
apologies.
And what resulted was, of course, the engine over boosting and the increased power output of the car for that, 5 minutes, 3.5 to 5 minute window that it took to go around the track or until the error was caught. Power typically from this car was about 800 horsepower. Because of the overboosting, though, you got up to about 1,100 horsepower out of this car. Um, this resulted in a recorded top speed at the end of the Musallan Strait of 238 miles an hour. And you've got a chicane right there, too. I mean, you're going to these huge, uh, just this obviously the mall track or the streets that are so historic and so legendary. This car just has handled it amazingly, though. Um, anyway, the crazy part is that the engine did not destroy itself. You would think with overboosting, of course, a very very dangerous condition, the car could have, you know, things could have been catastrophic, as things work out, but it didn't. So this is a very reliable chassis, reliable engine, I should say. But the end result, though, is that uh, this particular car secured pole position for the endurance race, and its qualifying time was 6 seconds ahead of all of the competition. They may not sound like a lot, but for those who know racing, that is a huge, huge lead. Many of its top competitors at the time were Aston Martins and a few others. And I mean, to be a full 6 seconds or more ahead was a huge, huge advantage, I guess, that gave Nissan the pole position that year. Um, there's actually a really good YouTube channel called Ben Collins Drives. This was Ben Collins is the driver. I'll try to share the video here for just a second, but he actually did a feature on this car in the last 2 weeks. And first of all, the videography is beautiful. He talks about the summary of the car. He does a full on summary of the car as he's driving it. And he gives full feedback to you of what the car is behaving, how it's reacting. And again, kind of giving you a history lesson while you're at it. So it's a very, very awesome video. Anyway, the reason why this is all being shared is because this car is going to auction. It will be, let's see here. It's going to the Sotheby's auction. Bidding for this will begin tomorrow. So the auction starts tomorrow, and currently the car is still in Le Mans. It's being maintained by a particular motorsports company, and estimated sales are being predicted as being 1 to 1.5 million euros, which is about 1.6 million US. The reason why I thought to bring this up too is that in our last episode, we mentioned about the R34 Skyline, the one that was styled by Paul Walker and used in the Fast and Furious franchise. Those articles that we covered were reported that particular Skyline was the world's most expensive Nissan. Now, if this auction goes as planned, this may be the new uh, most expensive Nissan to
Well,
go.
I mean, Nissans in general are just kind of going for. I feel like the historic Nissans are starting to finally go for top dollar. I mean, so we're no strangers to kind of covering what crazy values are kind of going for. We covered that 240Z that kind of set the trend when it went through auction, and it was the
Hmm.
highest selling Datsun 240Z in the United States. Remember we did that, but
Yep,
then we also cover the obscure. Remember we talked about Tom Cruise's
that's
Planters
right.
Z, and we
Yes,
talked about that when that sold. So yeah, if you know about the obscure Z that's coming up, I mean, usually it's pretty public, but if you know about an obscure Z or a classical Datsun or Nissan or even an Infinity, that's within the racing heritage or super rare, let us know. We'll definitely talk about it here on the show. But we love that kind of stuff. We nerd out on that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's I mean, obviously for obvious reasons. But yeah,
yeah.
so this goes auction tomorrow. Auction is how long?
I actually did not specify
Few days, probably.
because
No
this
reserve.
no, well, the crazy part is that because this is such a high profile auction, the conditions of those who are eligible to even place a bid are very strict.
Eh,
Typically, it involves contacting, it isn't like an online eBay bid. This is something that has to be
it's all
vetted.
crypto purchase or what? What's going? How
Crypto
weird
bros are coming in with this
dark
thing.
web purchase? I mean, what's going on here? So, but I
Yeah,
will say that's super cool. Yeah, I guess I'm not. I've heard the name Sotheby's. I know they deal with some pretty high end auctions. I've seen their name once or twice through other
yeah,
brands. I'll leave it at that. And
yeah.
so that's cool.
But
Good find.
thank you,
So
man. The last thing I will say though is that for those who are trying to sell your car, advertising that you've over boosted the engine typically will not result in a higher sales price. I'm just going to tell you that much.
all right.
I think
That's not
this
a
is
selling point. Got it.
yeah. That's not, for us common folk. That is no, that is not it.
So you
So,
over boosted the engine and you want me to
mm,
pay how much
and you
for
want
it?
more money? More money? Yeah.
But I will say it's an opportunity to pick up something extremely rare. So yeah, if you've got the means, I'm pretty sure it's so choice, as Ferris
So
Bueller
choice.
would put it.